that says setting up for your custom streaming service. Is that right, Sutung? Yep.
And
So
it should be
Daniel,
like a loading thing. Boom, boom, and
perfect,
then
perfect,
you're
perfect.
like,
I see that. I see that. Yeah, nice, nice. Okay, okay. Are we live streaming now?
yeah, we're live.
Everywhere. Okay, 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 okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm very happy to be here with Daniel. And Daniel was just asking me where can he give support to the hackers in the hackathon, right? And this goes for everyone in here. In the Telegram group, go in the Telegram group, and there you will have a channel called Technical Support. In there, you will find a message pin with all the names, all the usernames of all the mentors that are in the hackathon. So you can tag them at Daniel. I have this question about Cartridge, about Dojo. How can I do this? So, hey Omar, I don't know how to ask for information. And also, you have another channel called Resources. In that Resources channel, you will also have a lot of information on how to maybe answer your questions yourself, right? Another thing is that you can go into Discord. Actually, the Dojo Discord could be a good way to go, right, Daniel?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I will also send you the I will send you guys in. I will put in the resources for the hackathon in Telegram, the link to the Discord of Cartridge, so you can go there and ask questions, for Dojo related questions. They are very fast at answering, and also in the Telegram you can also ask there. So yes, I mean there's a lot of places where you can ask your questions, and yes, okay. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Daniel. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I'm super happy to be here. Happy to talk to everyone. Happy to share about Dojo and Cartridge. Hopefully, inspire some people to try their hand at
Nice.
making games. I know that I think when it comes to Web3 development of apps, games are seen as maybe some of the most challenging. And I think that with the tools that we're going to talk about today, it becomes much, much more accessible. So, we really believe that games are the frontier of any new technology. And so, what's happening in Web3 gaming is really going to be pushing the boundaries of Web3 overall. So, very excited to share what we have with you and hopefully inspire some people to try it for themselves.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And well, now you know, so Cartridge is providing a generous $5,000 as prize for the gaming track. So, I mean, there's a good amount of money to be win there. And well, we have Daniel here. And well, let's go. Daniel, you're live in Twitter, on X, and
I
also in
sure am
YouTube.
at
And
Chronosapiens.
nice, nice. Chronosapiens. And you can also find him in Telegram, please.
Exactly.
In the Telegram channel, you will find him. Support and tech. Remember, support and tech. All right. Okay. Let's go, Daniel. The floor is yours.
Amazing. So, welcome everyone to the workshop on building games with Dojo and Cartridge. My name is Daniel Kronovet, Chrono Developer Relations Lead at Cartridge. What we're going to do really today is we're going to do a bit of an introduction into how to build games using the Dojo stack. And so, Dojo is a framework for making provable games and applications with in Cairo with Starknet. And it's both a framework, a software framework for making games, and it's also a tool chain, including a sequencer, including an indexer, and a whole build tool to actually help you deploy your game. And so, together we have this whole kind of a system where you can develop your Cairo applications and then test and deploy them all with sort of one technology stack, the Dojo and Cartridge stack, which we're going to talk about today. So that's basically what we're going to do. I'll give you a walkthrough of how a game works, show you some of the code, show you some of the actual tools, and then take any questions. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and we're going to really just get right
Amazing.
into it. All right.
Amazing, amazing. If anyone has questions, please ask them in the Q&A, and I will redirect them to you, Daniel. Also, I will be checking YouTube and Twitter, so in case there's questions in there, I will ask them to you. I will redirect them to you, Daniel.
Amazing. All right. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and we're going to just take it right away. Share just really my whole screen. All right. Let's share entire screen. All right. Can everyone see my
Yes. Yes,
And everyone's
I
see my
can
screen.
see
So
the
we're looking at the Dojo
DOS.
documentation.
Yes.
All right. So the first thing I'm going to show you is this is the Dojo documentation, dojoengine.org. Everything that you're going to need to build games with Dojo, you're going to find right here. You click here to documentation, you'll see all of the information you need. So if at any point you want to dive deeper or get more information, this is the place that we're going to send you. So dojoengine.org. What we're going to do now is we're going to walk through. This is a starter repo, Dojo intro. So if you all just want to go to github.com, I'll post it in the Zoom. Let me see if I can pull the chat. Actually, I'll just do it later. But this is the repo that we're gonna launch. So if anyone wants to follow along at home, just feel free to clone this repo. It's going to be at github.com/dojoengine/dojo intro. This is what we're going to work through as I teach you how to use the Dojo stack. So if you want to follow along, feel free. Otherwise, we're going to go right into the terminal. So here is the Dojo repo. We see that I've downloaded it, Dojo intro. We'll open it up in Cursor. So here we are looking at the actual code. Kind of what we have here is really two directories. We have the contracts, which is where all of your Cairo code is going to live. All of your Dojo code, all of your configuration for the tools is going to be right here in contracts. And then the client is going to be the front end, right? So what runs in the browser and lets you actually play the game is going to be in the client. And one of the amazing things about the Dojo toolchain is the way that it really lets you build an entire kind of end-to-end pipeline of front end and back end. And actually, I'll take you a little bit into the docs before we even start to give you a little bit of an overview. Right. So let me actually just decide which image I want to. Yeah. So which image I want to give you. I think we'll do this one. And so the way that a Dojo game works is that there's the Dojo game, and the Dojo game is based around the idea of a world, a game world. And inside of the game world, there's going to be many kinds of systems, different kinds of actions that you can take as a player, many different components, different kinds of data you're going to manipulate. Maybe you attack a monster, so there's the attack system, and you attack the monster component. These are just some of the ideas, and that's how your game is built using the Dojo framework. And then the way that your game is deployed is it's going to be running in a client. That could be in the browser, that could be a Unity client, maybe even a mobile client. And we have different SDKs, software development kits, that let you connect your clients with the Starknet backend. And then we have a sequencer called Tori, which basically is the bridge between the Starknet game world and your client, which takes blockchain state, kind of indexes it and
Sorry to
creates a
interrupt you,
database.
Daniel.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you zoom in a little bit more, please?
Can I
Zoom
what?
in a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Zoom in a little bit more. Yeah.
All right, how's
Just
that? Perfect.
that's perfect. Yes, thank you.
All right, there we go. Yeah, so this is a little bit of an overview over the whole Dojo stack. We see that we have the Dojo game, the world, and all the components in the world. We have your actual game client in the purple, and then the way that is linked to the world is with the SDK and Tori, our indexer. And so these pieces all fit together to create a game, which is what we're going to show you in the intro repo. But I wanted to give you a quick overview of the entire stack so that you can get a sense of where this is all going. So now that that's done, we're going to get into the actual code. And so let's start with talking about the actual code for making a game with Dojo. Right, so here we have the contracts. I don't know how familiar you are with Cairo development, the audience, so I'm going to assume some familiarity, but maybe not expertise. But I'm going to assume that we know kind of what a
That sounds
Cairo
good.
contract
Yeah.
looks like and how a kind of Cairo project fits together. So we have our source code.
Sorry, Daniel. Can you zoom in a little bit more, please?
Yes, of course, of course. Let's zoom in a little bit
Thank you.
more. How's that? All
Perfect.
right.
That's perfect.
So here we have our contracts directory. We have our systems and our models and the library. So we have, very simple game, just some models. We have some systems, some actions. The models are, we have so the game itself is basically something we call spawn and move. You have a character, you put the character on a map, and you move the character up, down, left, right. That's the whole game that we're looking at, up, down, left, right. And so we have the idea of a direction. an enum deciding which direction your character goes. We have two structs, the position, which is where your character is, how many moves your character has left, and then an implementation of movement, which is just whichever way we go, we're going to move our position by one. So very, very, very simple logic for the Cairo code. The actions also very simple. We have we have the way that we spawn a character. If we want to spawn a character, we'll just make a new character at the beginning location and save it. One thing about this that I actually want to really highlight is where the Dojo framework actually helps make game development and application development easier. So something, I don't know how familiar you are with Cairo code, but what you're going to notice actually is something kind of interesting, which is that some of this code is actually a little bit simpler than what you would normally see if you were making a Cairo contract. Specifically, the way that we manage state is much simpler in Dojo than it is in normal Cairo development. What I mean by that is that when you call this function, you're passing in your contract state, which is self, which is your contract storage. But then we're going to basically pull out the world, which is just another sort of object, which has its own functions, which are provided by Dojo. And then you can basically treat the world as a database. And so you can basically write state to the world as you would, what we call an ORM, an object relational mapper. And so instead of managing storage addresses directly, as you would have to in other Cairo contracts, Dojo lets you write state as you would a database. And so you write models directly, and they're based on things like keys. And so you get to basically read and write your game state much more simply than you would do if you were writing Cairo games without Dojo. And so I'll show you here. For example, this is a position struct. What we see here is that we have this decorator Dojo model, which tells the compiler that this is a Dojo model and that it adds all kinds of different functions to it that you wouldn't get normally if you weren't building with Dojo. You tell it that this is the key, just like a primary key with a database. And the key is the address of the caller. So whoever is calling the function, whatever the user is who's logged in, it uses their account address as a key. And then it'll store the data by that key. And so you're not having to manage the storage location yourself. You can just use a key to pull the data and then save it according to the same key. And so being able to create games using the very familiar database read-write model is a huge advantage that Dojo gives you compared to general Cairo development. So that's that. This is the actions. We can see, the way that the movement works. I think this is not something that people here, I think this is probably simple enough to understand. You get the world, you get the player, you read the player's state from the world just by passing in the player's address. You read out their position state. You move the character, and then you save the new model. And so when you click move, the Dojo function, the Dojo code will read the character, move it, and save it. I think this is something that people should all be able to mostly follow along. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask me later on. So that's that. I'll go a little bit into the kind of configuration, and then we're going to actually deploy and play this game. So yeah, this is the scarb.toml. This is the configuration. The one thing I'll say is that if you're going to be making a game with Dojo, the one requirement is that you have to include Dojo and Dojo macros as dependencies. We're actually releasing a new version of Dojo this week called 1.7, which is a pretty big step forward for Dojo development. So now is an excellent time to be coming into Dojo development because we're releasing a very big upgrade, which is Dojo 1.7. So yeah, all of this, if you want to review it, just look in the repo. All this is there. The last two things I'll show you is that we have two pieces of infrastructure we're going to use to deploy our game. One is Katana. Katana is the sequencer, and I'll actually just show you in the docs what it looks like. We have Katana, which is a Starknet sequencer. And what a Starknet sequencer is, it's basically not quite a miner, but very similar. When you send a transaction, it goes to a sequencer. The sequencer puts it in order and produces a block. And that is, where the blockchain state is stored. And we made a sequencer called Katana, which is designed for gameplay. and specifically some things about it. It's written in Rust, so it's very fast. It uses gRPC for network communication, so the communication is much faster. And basically, this is a sequencer that is much faster and more performant than other sequencers. And that makes it really useful for game use cases because of how fast it is. So we're going to be using Katana to run our world. The next piece is Tori. Tori is our indexer. And when I first started working with Starknet, I actually didn't really understand what a sequencer was. And I imagined, or sorry, an indexer was. And I imagine that maybe other people were not so familiar with what is an indexer, why is it important? And the answer is that when you are making transactions to a blockchain, the state is being updated, but the state of a blockchain is not always easy to read, easy to query, and easy to display to an end user. And so where an indexer comes in is an indexer is another program, another piece of infrastructure. And its whole job is to look at blockchain transactions and internally create its own database of the blockchain state that is designed to be much faster to query. And so instead of having to query Katana itself for state, which is a much slower operation, the indexer lets you query state very quickly, which makes it much easier to display a UI to the user. And so indexers are essential for game development and really blockchain application development broadly, because they let you render and display UI to a user much, much more quickly than you could if you didn't have this and you only had to go to the blockchain directly. And so Tori is an essential part of the overall sort of game experience, also written in Rust, also uses gRPC, also very fast. So those are the two pieces that are really important. Everything else, I think, is less important for right now. Okay, so here we are back at our project. We have Katana, we have Tori, we have everything else ready to go. All of these configuration little bits and pieces are not so important for right now. I'll show you how we launch the game. All right, so here we are, Dojo intro. And first, what we're going to do is we're going to enter into the contract directory. All right, so here we are in the contract directory. And the first thing we'll do is we're going to compile our game. So Sozo is Dojo's build tool. Sozo is similar to Scarb. It's actually built on top of Scarb, which is the kind of general Cairo build and compile tool with some additional features that make it really useful for Dojo development. So we're going to do Sozo compile. I think it's actually Sozo build. Then we'll see that here we are building and compiling the Cairo code that we just looked at. We're using 1.7, which is very exciting because it was months in the making. So I can tell you internally, the Dojo team is very happy to be releasing 1.7. It's a huge step forward for the entire ecosystem. All right, so we compiled our game. We'll do a Sozo inspect.
Sorry, Daniel.
Yes, of course.
Can you zoom in a little bit more, please?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for reminding me, Omar. I really appreciate that.
No worries, no worries. It's okay.
All right, how's that?
That's perfect, yeah.
Perfect. Right, so we have Sozo inspect, and we see that we've compiled our entire game. We know that the world has been created, not deployed, but Sozo is aware of what the world is going to look like because it can see all the contracts and it understands what your game is going to look like. We have all the different namespaces, the different
Sorry,
actions.
Daniel. Sorry to interrupt
Yes,
again.
of course.
There's a question in the chat. How did you install Sozo? Yeah.
Such a great question. Thank you so much for asking. So the way that we do dependency management is we use ASDF, which is a very popular dependency management tool. It's actually how most people install Scarb. And so ASDF is a multiple runtime version manager. And the way that it works is that there's a file called tool versions, which lives in your contracts directory, tool versions. And these are all the latest versions. We're still 1.7 is still in alpha, so I use the latest versions. I actually updated them this morning. And the way that it works is that you just have ASDF install. And if you didn't have the pieces installed, it would install the latest versions for you. Right, so I already did this morning. And so we can see that all the versions that we need are installed. Sozo is installed, Tori is installed, Scarb is installed. But if you didn't have them installed,
it's like using Poetry, right? Or Cargo, for example.
It's very similar to Cargo. One thing I'll say also is that if you want to get started, there's an installation guide right here in the Dojo book, and there's a one command installation that you can use, which I'll actually post in the chat. Just let me quickly do to everyone. All right. So this function will let you install the entire Dojo toolchain with one command. You have to just paste the whole thing to your terminal. Make sure you have ASDF installed, otherwise it'll give you a warning. But assuming you have ASDF installed, it'll install the entire toolchain. And you should be able to immediately go into this repo, go into contracts, hit ASDF install, and you should be ready to go. If anyone has issues about that, afterwards in the chat, talk to me and we'll help you sort it out.
So,
Okay.
sorry, Daniel, there's another question. Are
Yes,
there
of
any
course.
other repos of non-gaming apps built with Dojo? Is Dojo also used for non-gaming?
That's a great question. There are not that many, but we think that that is a missed opportunity because, something that I talked to with the rest of the engineering team is how, we really present Dojo as being a games framework, but really it is a framework for making applications of all kinds. I think that the database model of the ORM, which lets you write and query state, all of the infrastructure, Katana, Tori, these things can be used to build any application that needs a high level of performance, not just games. It was designed for games, but really it can be used to build any kind of application. So I would say, yeah, if you want to build something that's not a game, you're more than welcome to do so. We would actually encourage it because the tools are not just limited to games. But to date, it hasn't been very common. But we think that's mostly because no one has done it, not because it can't be done. So that's the one thing I'll say about that. Okay. So we're going to continue now
Thank you,
with
Daniel.
the installation. Of course, my pleasure. Thank you. So, all right. So here we are. We have a Sozo inspect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start running Katana our sequencer and then deploy the world to the sequencer. So we're going to start a new tab right here. Remember, we're right here in contracts, and we're going to do Katana. And Katana was already installed. Let's see, Katana version. There we go. Right. Beautiful. 1.7 alpha 4. So we'll do Katana config katana.toml. Give it a second. All right. And there we go. So we've started. Our Katana instance is now running. We see, it started mining blocks. It's initialized all the cartridge sort of infrastructure it needs, some nice big title, some pre-deployed contracts, some pre-funded accounts, everything you would expect from a development blockchain, you're getting right here. So Katana is up and running on the default port, and that's that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do Sozo migrate. What this is going to do is it's going to introspect into the world. It's going to read the state of Katana the chain, figure out what it has to do to bring the deployed world up to date, and then deploy it. In this case, because we haven't deployed the world yet, all it's going to do is deploy everything, which we'll see now. Sozo migrate. You can see it's looking at the chain, seeing what has to be done, deploying the world, deploying the contracts. And just in 1 second, we'll see that all finished. I
To be
really thought that
honest, it looks amazing when it says building the world. Like looks,
yeah, I mean, I was actually,
it has a catch.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think the team did a really nice job adding those little nice features just to make it feel like a more active experience. But yeah,
Yeah.
so we've deployed the world. Now, if we run Sozo inspect, we're going to see that everything now shows synced. What that means is that the world on chain on the Katana sequencer instance is 100% synced up with the contracts that we have locally. As you develop your game in an ongoing way and you have to start deploying diffs and migrations and updates, Sozo becomes a really useful tool for only migrating the changes that you need to make. And so that's what Sozo adds on top of Scarb, which is it can tell what migrations you have to make and make them intelligently in a way that respects your existing on-chain state. So that's a really nice feature of Sozo that makes it so useful for deploying and maintaining complicated applications. So we have our world deployed. The next thing we have to do And we can see how the deployments show, we see the transactions were sent to deploy the world, so on and so forth. If you're familiar with blockchain development, all this should feel pretty familiar. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to launch Tori. So Tori is our indexer, and it's going to be used to allow us to have our front end be updated with new state. So we're going to do Tori. Remember, we have Tori version, lovely, 1.7 alpha 6. Tori, and then we're going to do config tori.toml. We use toml files as all of our configuration files. Again, very standard Starknet style. I think we really wanted to keep Dojo very consistent with how Starknet and Cairo and Rust work, because that is really the ecosystem that we're in. And the more similar we are, the easier it is for people to start using these tools. So we start Tori, we see it's running, we see it knows where Katana is, because it's all just default ports. Now Tori is running. So now if we kind of take a step back, we have all these pieces in place. We have Katana running, our blockchain is running, we've deployed the world to it, and we have our indexer running, ready to serve the front end. And so now we have our entire blockchain backend ready to go. So really the last thing that we have to do is get our front end going. So let's go into the client. So now we're in the client. The client is just a normal, NPM package, just like you'd expect. Well, let's take a quick look at it just to show you. So here we are. Actually, I can even zoom in a little bit more. Sorry, I know we asked me to do that already. Okay. So here's the client. Very much what you'd expect. It's just kind of a simple website with some wallet integrations, the way that you would expect anywhere else. So we use Controller. So Cartridge makes a gaming-focused web wallet called Controller. It's actually an amazing piece of software. I've been integrating it and working with it for a few months now. It's extremely sophisticated. I really recommend it. I'll show you how it works kind of in a minute, but it's a really cool piece of technology. We highly recommend you give it a shot. Super nice to work with. Here we're pulling in our SDK. So we're pulling in Tori, we're pulling in some tools to actually query data from the Tori indexer and show it in the client. Some other configuration that's not so interesting. Here we initialize the Tori client by passing in the world address, so it knows which contract to look for. In our case, the world that we deployed. Basically creating a subscription, saying that every time there's a update to the model on chain, we're actually going to get a push to the client so it can update automatically, creating kind of an entire loop where every time you make a transaction, and you'll see it in the end how it all comes together, but whenever you make a transaction to move your character, it'll get sent to Katana, it'll then get picked up by Tori, then it'll then get subscribed back to the client to update the UI. And that becomes the entire game loop of sending transactions, having them be indexed, and then subscribing to the updates back to the client. That's the loop. And that's the loop that the entire Dojo stack enables out of the box, which is kind of the whole value proposition and kind of exciting conclusion for this talk that I'm hoping to give you. Yeah, and that's basically it. I think everything else here you can take a look at if you want to. Nothing about this is so interesting. Oh, there's one really nice feature about the controller that I will show you. Basically, we have this idea.
Sorry,
Yes, of course.
Daniel. Sorry to interrupt you. There's a question by Timothy.
All
Thank
right,
you,
lay it
Timothy,
on
for
me.
your question. It says, can you repeat the commands you input? I think the last commands, the last commands, yeah.
The ones in the terminal.
I think so, yeah. Is that
Absolutely.
right, Timothy? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so basically, and I think actually, what if you want, you can follow along, because the first Dojo app, I think this tutorial will really give you all of these instructions that I've given you. You can see it right here. It's starting the development environment, starting your Katana, building your contracts with Sozo, indexing with Tori. So everything that I'm doing, you can follow along exactly right here in this tutorial. So let me actually just post a link to it. Yeah, this is basically exactly what I'm demoing to you. So let me post a link to this, and then you can take a look at it. But yeah, all the instructions I'm doing, you can find right here in the Dojo book tutorial. Okay, so let's continue. All right, so here we are on the client. Let's make sure anything. Oh yeah, so one really nice thing about the controller that makes it really stand apart from other wallets is it has support for something that we call sessions. And the idea here is, one of the big frustrations that people have with, being with Web3, playing Web3 games is all of the transactions. Having to make transactions is really frustrating, especially when you want to create a immersive experience like a game. And so what the controller does is it lets you put in what we call policies. And a policy basically says for a certain contract address, um, certain functions are whitelisted. That means that when you log it to the controller, it'll tell you, okay, these functions I can call automatically. I don't need your approval. And so for the specific functions that the game uses that are defined in advance, you basically let the controller say, you can make these transactions for me. And then when you're actually playing the game, it becomes very, very frictionless and easy. And that's a feature that the controller has that makes it so exciting and compelling as a gaming wallet. So this is kind of just what that looks like. All of this information is in the documentation. So if you want to go a little bit deeper or review anything that I'm saying or get more details, all of this is in the docs. I'm just kind of giving you an overview so you know kind of where to look and how to orient yourself to these tools later on. Okay, let's deploy the game. So here we are, client, pnpm, run dev, and now we're running. The controller requires HTTPS. That's just one thing to keep in mind. So if your front end, you have to deploy it with HTTPS. That's not hard, but just heads up. Okay,
Sorry,
so here
Daniel.
we are.
Again,
Yes, of course.
there's a question by Sergio Santiago. It
Yes, of
says
course.
that if you can, at the end, I mean, not now, but if you can show some examples of applications, games, anything that is being built with Dojo. I mean,
I
and you have a
absolutely,
lot of examples that you can show, right?
I absolutely, actually, we're launching. It's actually such good timing that we're doing this talk today because we're launching a game today called Loot Survivor 2 that
Oh,
we're all very excited about. It's been months in the making. It's launching today. So after I finish this demo, I'll show you Loot Survivor 2, and I'll really show you the way that all these pieces fit together in a much more advanced way to make a much more advanced and exciting game. So I'll talk about Loot Survivor 2
amazing.
momentarily, probably in about 5 or 10 minutes, and then you'll see the way it all fits together. Okay. So here we
Thank
are.
you, Daniel.
My pleasure. Thank you. I mean, all right. So we're going to now take a look at the client. So here we are. Here we are, localhost. Hopefully this works just fine. All right, there we are. So this is the game, right? I know you're thinking, wow, this is the most advanced UI that there could be. There's nowhere else for visual design to go. This is it. This is the beginning and end of gaming UI. I know I felt the same way. You obviously agree with me. Let's pull up the console just so people can kind of see what we're doing. Ignore those errors, they're not relevant to us. Okay, so this is the game Spawn and Move. And what we're going to do, as you saw when we looked at the contracts, we're going to basically connect our wallet. We're going to spawn our character on the map, and we're going to move them around up, down, left, right. And that's the whole game. As we'll see with Loot Survivor, the game can get infinitely more complicated. So we'll connect. Okay. And so now this is the controller. We're connecting. We have this, UI that comes up. I type in my username, Chronosapiens. I log in. So something else the controller did that was very pioneering was it really pioneered. Oh, and this is now we're creating the session. And so it's basically saying, hey, do you give us permission to call these functions on your behalf? Remember, we saw at the code, remember we saw here the policies being written. Now we're seeing them being sent to me and surfaced to me in the UI saying, I give permission to call these functions. And this is obviously for security. Before you let the wallet make transactions on your behalf automatically, you want to make sure that you give permission. So that, and then create a session. Okay, now we're connected. Now I'm going to hit spawn. You see the transaction went. And let's take a minute to really talk about what just happened. Let's see, we'll move around. All right, so let's move right, let's move down again, move down again, move left, move up, move right, right, down, 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 left, left, left. Okay, you get it. We could just keep doing this forever. Um, and I kind of want to talk about what just happened because this is the game, this is the demo. But I think the real point that I want to make is how all the pieces that we've talked about really came together to make this possible, right? Because when I click move right, so many things are happening, right? When I click move right, a transaction is being sent by the client, right? Here we are, game. Let me see. I think it's let me just take a quick look. Index. Where's the move right button? Maybe it's game. Yeah, right. So here we are. This is the game. When I do when I do on click the right button, it says, move to the right. And then we send a transaction. We look at move. All right, here we are. We're basically going to send a transaction to the Katana sequencer saying, here's the, here's the action contract, send the call data to move. We see that the transaction is made right here. And then we also, going over to our Katana instance, remember our sequencer, we see all these transactions being sent to Katana, where, the client is sending the transaction payload to our sequencer, which is running locally. It's being mined, it's being processed, and then it's being picked up by Tori, our indexer that's also running. So it's always getting these updates saying that I have to update my internal database of state based on what I'm seeing from Katana, which is emitting events, letting you know that something is happening in your game. And then we have the subscription, which is right here, saying, okay, anytime there's a change in the position or the moves data, you need to send me the update, which looks like this, call back, send me the data, which I then go over to here. I know I'm just kind of jumping around the code, but I think that you get the sense. And I say, oh, now I have to update the front end with the new position. And then that's what we see right here, right? That's what we see right here, right? And so this is the entire flow of I send a transaction, it goes to Katana, it then goes to Tori, and then gets sent back to the client, which updates the UI, and then I make another transaction. That is the game loop. And that is the game loop that is enabled by the entire Dojo stack. And this is obviously a very simple game, but you can see how these core ideas and the kind of this core sort of flow can be made more and more and more and more complicated to create whatever game experience that you want. And we saw how the tools like Sozo, well, ignore that. I don't know what that was, but that was important. Doesn't matter. We can see how all these tools let you create this kind of game experience pretty easily as a developer. I mean, nothing that I showed you is so advanced. Obviously, under the hood, it's very advanced. But for you, the developer, these tools are pretty, very, very accessible to people. And so what I'd recommend is to actually just really clone this repo and use it as a jumping off point. So if you wanted to start making a Dojo game, you should just take this exact repo, clone it, and then kind of get it running locally so you can see how it all fits together. And then just start building it out. Just start building it out from there, one thing at a time, and you'll be able to create a pretty immersive experience. So that is our tutorial. We have 20 minutes. I think what I want to do now is maybe show you Survivor 2, just so you can get a sense for what a more complicated game can look like. And then I guess we'll take some questions. How does that sound, Omar? Is that a good plan?
Yeah, sounds perfect for me. Yes.
Awesome.
And there's just a couple questions if we can answer them real quick.
Okay.
So yeah, it says, is controller the only wallet that can be used to interact with Dojo games, or the user can use ordinary Bravos or Argent wallets?
That's a good question. It's mostly controller. It's controller is kind of what we want to use.
Perfect,
Yeah, I
perfect.
think I
Oh,
think
sorry,
I
go
think you
ahead.
could, but I think it's much more difficult.
All right, okay. So you can use
No
it. It
problem.
will be more difficult. Here we have Saruba says that amazing session. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure.
Manandagopan asks, could you please confirm if we're interacting with the world and model as follows? First, fetch a model entity from the world. Second, do operations atop the model, modifying its properties if needed. And third, write the modified model entity back to world.
That is exactly correct.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. All right, okay, thank you. Those were the questions. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, so let me actually, I think I might have a different, let me just pull up a different Loot Survivor version. So
But
here we
by the
are,
way,
Loot
Daniel,
Survivor.
if you need more time for the workshop, I mean, you can take it, eh?
No, it's fine.
So
I
it
think
depends on you, huh?
let me just pull up the Loot Survivor version that I want. Okay. So here we are. This is Loot Survivor. Let me show you how to play it. All right, we'll log in.
Looks very nice.
Yeah, it's very good. Okay.
Daniel, do you have, whenever you have a chance, if you have the link to your Discord, if you can share it?
I absolutely will do that in 1 second. Let me just
No worries, no hurries, no hurries.
let me turn off the music. But yeah,
We cannot
let me
hear the
just
music,
turn.
by the way, yeah?
You can't hear the music? Okay, well, I'm
Nah,
gonna turn it off just because it is annoying to me.
perfect, okay.
1 second, 1 second.
No worries.
We'll just turn off the music, we'll turn off the sound effects. Okay. So this is Loot Survivor. This is a game also built with Dojo. Obviously much more complicated, but the same underlying ideas. There's Dojo contracts. They are used to they're used to update state on the sequencer. I think this is on mainnet, so actually there's not even a katana. It's just going straight to mainnet, and then that gets picked up by the Tori indexer, which then is sent back to the client. And so the same loop, instead of moving a character, we're doing much more of an immersive kind of RPG kind of experience, but the same underlying ideas. And so, here's a bear. I have to fight it. I attack. Oh, let's do that. This dungeon might actually not be working anymore. Let me I know they were launching the game now, and so there was maybe some kind of quirks. Let me think if I can figure out what to do. This might be not actually the best timing. Here's what we'll do actually. Let's do see if I can go to arcade. So here we are at the arcade. So Cartridge has an arcade, which is a whole nother place to engage with Dojo games. And so we have Loot Survivor playing here. Let's see if I can play it right here. Okay, so let's play it, see if this works. It might be yeah, so I think the game is still launching later today, so it's not quite ready. Maybe the practice dungeon. Let's try maybe the practice mode.
So, sorry, Daniel, just quick question here. Are you using some form of game engine like Phaser as such?
So this game, it's all just in the browser. It's actually quite amazing. They used a AI image generating tool called VO to generate animations for all of the gameplay, but it's really just in the browser. They're loading these animations and they're loading these assets, which they then give to you to like they then render to you to the client. So yeah, that's how they do it. But yeah, there's not like a more of a games engine past that. Okay. All right, so
Thank
we
you.
attack the bear, and then now you see that I level up. I can kind of give myself more I give myself more stats. I level myself up. I can go to the store to buy, I can buy myself weapons. Let's see what I want to do here. Let's see, how much gold do I have? Yeah, so I'll buy myself a sword, buy myself a belt, I'll buy myself this and that. Okay. And then, so the way that this game works is it's a roguelike dungeon crawler where you continue to have encounters, you get random items, you get gold, you continue to explore.
Daniel, just another question here.
Yes, of course.
What is the name of the AI tool that you mentioned? Bio?
It's called VO, VO,
Uh,
VEO.
all right. Okay.
And
Nice.
yeah, so it's an image generation tool that many people use. And the team used it to basically make videos and assets that they used.
Amazing.
Now I
Thank you.
leveled up again. I can do strength, I can do intellect, whatever it is. And so this is the gameplay. It's the whole idea is that as you go through the dungeon, the enemies get stronger and stronger. You have to get better strength and better weapons and level up your character. And there's a whole strategy around how do you level and grow your character so that you're better able to handle all the different threats and challenges that are going to come your way. And so this is a game that people are very excited about. People really admire the way that they introduce a lot of ideas around collecting rare NFTs. You can get beasts if you play really well, which people really want to collect, these like beautiful beast collectibles. The way that they made those very difficult to get, but requiring skill to get. A lot of those things people are really excited about in terms of really pushing the games ecosystem forward. So that's how they did that.
Sorry, Daniel, another question here.
Yeah, of course.
How could one integrate Dojo with a normal Web2 game built on Unity?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen because I think this is the end of my demo. How does that sound? And we can just do a
Yes.
dialogue. All right.
Perfect.
All right. So that was the end of the demo. Let's just go back to the questions. So how can we integrate with Unity? So we actually have a Unity SDK, which you can use to make Dojo games. So there's an SDK that you can use. It's a Unity SDK, so it gives you ways to basically import your Dojo types directly into your Unity environment, and then also have a Tori instance that sort of subscribes. So it lets you basically have your types be imported, so you can use your types directly in your Unity front end, and it gives you a way to subscribe to state updates using Tori. And so you basically make your front end using Unity, and then you can have your entire backend be deployed using Dojo, just like we saw before. And so, instead of the front end being a browser client like we saw here, it becomes a like a Unity game. But the back end is the exact same as we saw before. And Tori as the way to subscribe to state updates, and you can send transactions using our SDK, and that becomes the way to have a Unity front end instead of a client or a browser front end.
Amazing. Those are all the questions for now. But if there's someone else, sorry, there's another question right now.
Of
The
course.
assets that you guys have used in the game, can they be shared? Does Dojo allow that?
That's a really good question. Um, I think that the assets that were used by yeah, I think like the assets that Loot Survivor 2 created are those are their assets. I think you can probably get them from the you download them yourself. I don't know if I fully understand the question. Can you maybe give me some more clarity?
Suraj, if you can give some more clarity, that would be amazing. In the meantime, we have another question in here. Sorry, Suraj is asking something like NFT.
I see. So the beasts are collectibles that you can actually trade on a marketplace. If you go to the Loot Survivor, if you go to the marketplace, I'll actually post a link to it. You can go to the arcade marketplace. Yeah, so I'll post the link right here. But so this will actually take you to the marketplace where you can trade the beasts themselves. It's a very new collection, so there are not that many. But these assets are actually, once you've earned them, so the idea behind Loot Survivor is that you earn the assets by playing the game very well. But then once you have them, they're now yours, and you can then trade them on a secondary market, and that becomes like an exciting thing that people do.
Amazing, perfect. Okay, there's another question here. I think Timothy is asking if you can share the configuration to be placed in the .emp, the environment file, or and how to deploy the contract. I don't know, Timothy, if you can give more details in your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I showed you about how to deploy the game was that was basically the instruction. There's not like I don't have a second instruction past that.
Okay, Timothy, let us know please if that answers your question or give more details. All right, for the moment, those are the questions. Something else that you want to mention, Daniel, while we wait if there's some more other questions there?
Let me think of anything else I want to say. Um, no, I mean, I think that that's really it. I think that I think that as I said at the very beginning, Web3 gaming is we think a very exciting area to kind of be pushing the boundaries of blockchain gaming. And we think that the Dojo kind of a tool chain and infrastructure is very much like the best way to do that. And we think that our tooling is the most advanced. We think that we have, it's very performant, it's easy to use. So we really would encourage people to just try to play around. And we would love to, support you as best we can. Let me give you the Discord link. Yeah, let me just give you all the links right now so you can kind of take a better look. All right, so this is my Twitter. Let me give you the Discord link, which is
In the
in the
meantime,
Dojo book.
Suraj is asking here if all the games built in Starnet are built using Dojo.
That's a great question. They are not all using Dojo, but a lot of them are. Some people use others. Some people make games using Cairo directly, um, but most people now are using Dojo. Yeah, I mean, I think if people were building games like maybe even 4 years ago, then Dojo didn't exist yet. But now, I don't want to say most. I think that people obviously don't have to, but I think for many people that are starting out, Dojo is the best place to start making games. We have, we have maybe 24 studios, teams big and small that are actively building on Dojo, and we're attracting more and more and more, new developers to the ecosystem. Let me just pull up the link so you can have it.
Sorry, you were doing that and I distracted you, but
No, it's
yes.
fine. It's fine.
So
So
to tell,
here's the link to the Dojo Discord.
perfect. There you will get answers to most of your questions, guys. So go into that Discord, please. Sorry, there's another question there. What is Cartridge? Like, tell us more about Cartridge. What exactly is Cartridge?
Yeah, so Cartridge is a company that makes tools for Starknet, and so Cartridge makes the controller, which I showed you before. So Dojo is an open source framework for making games, and Cartridge is a company that makes tools for blockchains, and they are the primary maintainer of Dojo. So Cartridge is a company that makes and supports the Dojo framework, which is open source, but they also make the controller, which is a web wallet, which is another product. They have something called Slot, which is deployment infrastructure. And so actually the sponsorship that we gave to the hackathon, it wasn't in dollars, it was in slot credits. And so it basically is a way for you to deploy your game using our cloud infrastructure. And that's a service that we offer where we basically maintain the infrastructure. It's Katana, it's Tori, and you can just deploy to it in a single command. I'll show you the link to that also. Let's see, Dojo book. Okay. Actually pull up Cartridge docs slot. There it is. Okay. So slot is another service that we provide, which lets you deploy your games very easily without having to run your own infrastructure. So instead of having to maintain your Katana instance and your Tori instance, as I did it, and having to do that on your own cloud, you can do it right here on our own slot. And so that is basically how that works. Yeah, so that's another service we provide. We also provide, we have the arcade, which I showed you, which is where you can actually get exposure new to new games. So whenever you make a game with Dojo, you can add it to the arcade so that other people can play it. And our hope is we create really kind of a flywheel where the more games we have with Dojo, the more and more games are in our arcade, and the more people come to the arcade and see the games, and the more that future games have a built-in audience. So our hope is to really build a whole audience and a whole community around our ecosystem through the arcade, where people can basically come and see always new and exciting games. And then people who make games have a bigger and a bigger audience. And so, Cartridge as a company is really trying to build a whole ecosystem around the Dojo framework. Yeah, so how to add an arcade to the game. Let me run to the docs for you. Okay, yeah, so basically if you go right here, you can see instructions for how to register your game on the arcade. Yeah, so that's basically that. Yeah, if anyone wants to register a game on the arcade, just let me know. I'm happy to help you with that. I think that's a little bit more of a later on topic for people who are, a little bit more advanced. But that's definitely something that we can do.
Another question here that we have: Dojo differs from scaffolds because the real-time effect we need in games or dynamic web apps because of the sorry Dojo differs from a scaffold because the real-time effect we need in games or dynamic web apps games, right? Sorry, it's
Yeah, sorry, I don't fully understand that question.
seems like it differ. He's asking if the reason Dojo differs from a scaffold is because we need the real-time effect in games, right, or the dynamic web app games.
Um, yeah, I would say, the way that Dojo differs from just a scaffold is we give you this other infrastructure for providing kind of a real-time experience, right? Like, remember what I said, the Dojo framework is only one part of the puzzle, and the rest of it is all about, how do you actually have a game that runs quickly by sending a transaction to Katana and then having it be indexed and having it be back to the client. So creating that like really real-time feedback requires more than just like a code scaffold. It requires a whole tool chain that that Dojo provides.
Amazing, amazing. So we don't have more questions now, but let's wait just a minute because there might be a couple more. But either way, you can go into Discord or into the in the. I mean, you can try both the Starknet Discord. You can also try the Dojo Discord. You can also try the Telegram group and tag Daniel in there. And again, go into the support channel inside the Telegram group. There is Daniel. You will see him as Dojo representative. Tag him if
Yeah,
you have any question.
yeah.
Uh, mhm. And
I'm just
also
gonna
go.
post in the Telegram group. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, that will be great. And also, you can see that there's a lot of resources in the resource channel of the Telegram group, so you can also find useful resources. I'm adding more resources now from this talk with Daniel. So, you have any other questions you can ask there because I don't see any more right now. So, I think we're done here, Daniel. Thank you very much. We had a very demanding audience today, which
Of
is
course. I mean, I
amazing.
think that obviously, I mean, I'm so happy to hear that. Thanks everyone for coming. We think that game development is such an exciting place to be. It's such an
Yeah.
exciting thing to be doing on the blockchain. And so to have people be so excited is makes us very happy.
And honestly, the best place, in my opinion, and maybe Daniel, you can tell more about this, but games in Starnet are quite advanced and they are very good. They are quite complex, so you're in the right place to build on-chain games, right, Daniel? What do you think?
I mean, we believe that the Starknet gaming ecosystem is the most advanced in all of Web3. Many people believe that. And so if you want to be making games that really push the boundaries of what fully on-chain gaming can do, then we think that Starknet and specifically Dojo is the place to be.
Amazing, amazing. I'm sharing right now the Telegram group link. You can also find it in the DevPost webpage. There's everything you need. And Timothy's asking actual use case of on-chain gaming and Dojo as opposed to Web2 gaming. Like, yes, actually, that's a great question, Daniel. What do you think, or what would you like to see built uh, in Dojo for this hackathon? Like, do you have? Maybe you can send me this later. Think about this, meditate on this. But if you can send me three ideas of what you would love to see built, as Timothy is asking, right? Like a use case for on-chain gaming. You can send it to me, and I can then propagate this information across all the participants. That will be amazing. But if you have something in mind right now, that's perfect. But please send me that information too.
Yeah, I think that I can tell you now, because it's something that we think about and talk about a lot internally.
Mm-hmm.
I think that some of the real advantages of Web3 gaming is, people talk a lot about players owning their assets, and we think that that is important, but that's really only the very first step. That's only the very first step. Where things become more interesting is the idea around games living forever, the idea that a game world will last forever and not just be shut down. That's one thing that we think is important. We think that the a game being composable, the idea that when you make a game, it's not just a game that's isolated, but it is now in an ecosystem of other games, and you can have games that start to really build on top of and leverage other game worlds. And that's really what Loot Survivor is trying to do, is show that, we can build a game that's based on top of other concepts, other assets, other resources. And so it becomes not just one game in isolation, but all the games in a universe together. The third thing that we think is exciting is the idea of players modding and making their own clients. So the idea that, when you make a game, it's basically just core logic, but the actual interface and the client that people make is out of your hands. And so anyone can make their own client to play your game in different ways. And these are things that you just really don't have at all with Web2 gaming. And so, yeah, like owning assets is one part of it, but it's really more about how people can interact with your worlds and other worlds. There's so much more richness built in to Web3 gaming that you really don't have it all in Web2 gaming, or if you have it, it's so much more work to create. And so we think that's really the angle that we're excited about.
Interesting. Okay, I will write these ideas, Daniel, in a blog post that that we have for the hackathon with all the ideas from sponsors that we're collecting right now. So I will add those there so everyone can look at them and create these ideas by Daniel, or use these fundamentals to build whatever you want to build with Dojo.
Amazing.
So thank you, Daniel. As you can see in the chat, people are very happy with your workshop.
Well,
And
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
we appreciate it. And thank you very much, Daniel. See you in the Telegram group. Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone.
Any questions, let me know.
Perfect.